the evidence you should give the court and the jury the trial this issue. Should be the whole truth and the truth.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sorry, Bobby Stewart.
And is Stewart S-T-E-W-A-R-T?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And what do you do for a living, sir?
I am a sergeant with the Chatham County Police Department.
That's the uniform?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long have you been a police officer?
Probably about 34 and a half years.
And how long have you been a sergeant with the police department specifically?
Quite a while. I can't tell you exactly how many years, but it's been quite a while.
Now, what is your current position?
I'm a patrol sergeant, A-Watch.
What is A-Watch?
A-Watch is, we have different watches. We have A-Watch, C-Watch, D-Watch, and C-Watch, A, B, and C, and D.
And are these different shifts?
Yes, sir. Different shifts.
What are the hours for A-Watch?
A-Watch, hours now today is 6 to 6. 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, so it's essentially the daytime.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is your position? Patrol sergeant for A-Watch, you said?
Yes, sir.
What are your responsibilities in that role?
My responsibility is for during the day, the shift that we're on. I'm responsible for doing the briefing. At the beginning of the shift, I assign officers to divisions in Chatham County.
Okay. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to the morning of October 5th, 2022, okay?
Yes, sir.
Were you working that day?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what were you doing on that day?
Patrolling Chatham County.
Okay. Any particular precinct or area?
I was in the West Chatham precinct of Chatham Parkway.
And were you the sergeant over all the patrol officers assigned to the West Chatham precinct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many of them were there at that point? Patrol officers on the west side?
It was a total 7 or 8 that day.
Okay. Now, at some point on that day, on the morning of October 5th, did you respond to a call for service originating from 535 Buckhalter Road?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what was the nature of the call that brought you out there?
Missing child.
Now, when you get called out to a particular location on a particular call, do you yourself hear the 911 call?
You talking about on the radio?
Yes. Do you hear the 911 call that was made, or are you just getting a call from a dispatcher?
No, sir. I don't hear what was said when the person calls in.
Okay.
The only thing I get is the dispatch, what the dispatch tells us.
And the word from dispatch initially was it's a missing child call.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did you go to 535 Buckhalter Road?
Yes, sir, I did.
And how did you get there?
It was in my marked patrol vehicle. I drove there. I think if I'm not mistaken, I went down Chatham Parkway.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chatham Parkway to Gorod Avenue to Buckhalter Road.
And what type of residence is 535 Buckhalter Road?
It's a 2-story, like a single family dwelling.
Okay. Do you see in front of you a document marked as State's Exhibit 1?
Yes, sir, I do.
Can you look through that and tell us what it is, please?
It's it would be to the east of Highway 17 on Buckhalter Road, which is off of Gorod Avenue.
Well, I just mean, what is the document in front of you, State's Exhibit 1? It's more than one page, is it not?
Oh, yes, sir, it is.
Okay. And what is it?
It's a little like maps off of Google.
And do those maps accurately reflect the location of this residence in Chatham County?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd offer State's Exhibit 1 into evidence at this time.
I think I've already seen it, Judge.
Yes, Mr. Hilliard, and just make sure you speak loud enough so that Ms. Nally can capture your words.
I'm just gonna look through several of them. I think I've already seen them, Judge. I just wanted to make sure. Yes, ma'am. No objection. I've already seen all of these.
State's Exhibit 1, is it?
Your Honor, may I now publish these on the screens?
Yes.
All right, I'm on slide 1 here of State's Exhibit 1. This is the, I guess, Savannah, Chatham County metro area.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. And is 535 Buckhalter marked on this this map here?
Yes, sir, it is.
And can you sit down and just point to us where that is on here? Okay. The red pin just to the left of Garrard Avenue?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, sir. You can sit down. Now, moving on to slide 2, this is a beat map of Chatham County Police Department, beat 7, correct?
Yes, sir.
And beat 7 is further broken down into a number of neighborhoods, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And is 535 Buckhalter marked on this map as well?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what is it marked by?
It is marked by Buckhalter and Garrard Avenue.
Is it that red pin there that we see?
That is correct.
Okay. And 535 Buckhalter then would be in the Garrard Buckhalter neighborhood of beat 7, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now moving to slide 3, what are we looking at here?
Slide 3 is showing Buckhalter Road. It's also showing the residence where we responded to.
Okay, that's marked by the red pin there.
That's correct, sir.
And finally, slide 4, what are we looking at here?
Slide 4 is another photo of the residence, but it's a closer photo.
Okay. Now, when you responded to this resident, you mentioned you showed up in your patrol car. Where did you park?
I parked in the driveway just outside of the gate.
Okay. So the jurors can't see what you're pointing at on that picture. So if you could just step down and tell us where you parked.
This is the driveway here. I came in and I stopped just short of the gate.
Okay. And you can have a seat, sir. Thank you. And when you arrived, were there any other officers with you?
Yes, sir.
And who were those?
There was 2 other officers that came in behind me. Corporal Jepson was one, and then the other also I think was Voss.
Okay. Daniel Voss?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about Philip Gormley? Was he there as well?
He came in right behind them.
Okay. And when you arrived, did you make contact with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Where did you make contact with the defendant?
Just as I walked through the gate, they were walking towards the gate.
And who's they?
I saw a female, the lady sitting here with the glasses.
Okay. The witnesses identified the defendant. And what other, aside from police officers, what other people were on scene at the time that you arrived?
Myself. Are you talking about officers, sir?
No, other than police officers, what other people were on
The
scene?
people that I saw the young lady there. I saw a male subject, which I later found out was her boyfriend. And there was a little small child. And there was one more person standing back behind them.
Okay.
I think that was her brother.
Her brother?
I think it was her brother.
Okay. And was there also a person there who was identified to you as a babysitter?
Yes, sir.
And her daughter?
Yes, sir. She walked up behind me
Okay.
when I got there and walked around front.
Okay. Anyone else there that you remember who was there on arrival?
No.
Okay. Now, how did your initial contact with the defendant play out in the driveway right inside the gate there?
When I got there, she was walking towards me. She got to me and I asked her, "What's going on?"
And what did she say?
She told me that the child was missing.
Did she say when she had become aware of that?
Earlier that morning, if I'm not mistaken, I think she said around 6, I think, or something like that earlier when she had got it.
Okay. Wait, 6 was for when she got up or when the child might have gone missing? Do you remember?
I think she said when she woke up, she was looking for the child. Child wasn't there.
Okay. And did she say anything to you about the door, the front door?
Yes, sir. She said when she woke up, the door was open, the front door to the house,
And the child was gone?
and the child was gone.
Okay. While you were there talking to her about this, did she cast suspicion on anybody who might have been responsible for the disappearance of her child?
Yes, sir, she did. She said her ex. She think that her ex might have took the child, and if I'm not mistaken, I think she said that was the child's father, I think.
Okay. So she said the child's father might have taken it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, as the senior man on scene, you were the senior man initially, right?
Yes, sir.
Once you've gotten this initial story, what do you then shift gears into doing?
Well, we shifted gears, and I asked her what was the last place she saw him, and she told me in the bed there, and then the front door, we assumed by him going out the front door. If he went out the front door, then it could have been the front yard, and then there was woods behind the house, and there was the roadway of Buckholder Road, which passed in front of the house and went south to south of the house and then north of the house.
Did you task out some officers to search the house itself?
Yes, I did, sir. While I was talking to her, I asked her, did they search the house and look for him? She said yes. So I said, well, we're going to search it again. So I sent 2 officers in the house.
Do you remember which 2?
I think it was Gormley and I think Jefferson.
Okay. And did they go do that?
Yes, sir.
And what was, you mentioned Daniel Voss was one of the initial officers there with you. What was his role?
He was talking to the lady.
Okay. Did you, at any point, did you call other officers out beyond the initial 4, you, Gormley, Jepson, and Voss?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you want additional officers there for?
To aid in the search of the area. It was quite a big size area. And once they started arriving, I had officers check to the south of the residence, down to Veterans Parkway, and also had officers check to the north of the residence, up to Broad Avenue.
Now, you had officers canvassing the area looking for the boy himself, right?
Yes, sir.
And what else did you have them go out and look for?
I advised them to check the residence as they was checking the area to see if there was any cameras on the
Okay,
houses.
like Ring doorbell cameras
Yes,
and
sir.
things like that? So you had people out doing that.
Yes, sir.
And did you also have them canvassing for witnesses, potential people who might have seen the child either on his own or with somebody else?
Yes, we told them to knock on the doors and try to make contact with the people that live there, see if they knew anything.
So the initial effort focuses on searching the house and searching the general area around the house, if I'm understanding you. Did you yourself personally search any particular area?
I did.
And can you tell us about that?
While I was standing just inside the gate, the backyard area, there was a open shed to the right. It had an RV. We walked over in that area, me and another officer, and checked it. And we left there and went. There was a shop directly behind the house. We checked that area, but it was locked up. We inquired about a key, but they said there was, the gentleman who had the key to it wasn't there. So we searched around it, looked at behind the stuff that was there. Nothing.
Okay. So you weren't able to get into the RV initially because of lack of a key?
Correct.
Okay. Did the officers that showed up to help with the search efforts, where did they come from?
There was other officers that was assigned to my team that day.
Okay. The same beat 7 or different beats?
No, sir. They was from beat 8 and beat 9.
Okay. Those are other patrol areas in the West Chatham area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have other officers kind of flooding in from other places to help out?
Yes, sir. When you have a missing child, you call everybody over.
Okay. Now, at any point during your response, were you involved in making any follow-up on this this claim by the defendant that perhaps the boy's father was responsible?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us about that, please?
While I was myself and Officer Boss was there, I asked the lady if she knew where he lived.
You asked what lady?
The lady here with the black glasses.
Okay. You asked the defendant whether she knew where whom lived.
The ex.
Okay. The boy's father?
Yes, sir.
And what did she tell you?
She told me a county. I wrote it all down. She told me where he lived at. She gave me the county that he lived in. So what I did is I contacted that police department that's in that county.
And what did you ask them to do?
I advised them who I was looking for, gave them the name that I was looking for, and asked them did they know of them. And while I was talking to her, she told me she didn't know the address, but she gave me some reference points.
What do you mean by that?
Like she told me there was some reference points. There was a store. She told me the name of the store, and it was, I think she said it was a little campground or something. But she told me the name of it, and it was a large sign there. So I gave that information to the officer who called me back from the county.
Okay.
He told me, I think I know what that is.
All right. So you saying she gave you some reference points of like businesses near
That's
where
correct.
the boy's father lived?
Yes, sir.
Okay. To kind of walk you on to the general area?
That's correct.
Okay. And was there any result from that while you were out there?
The officer that called me and talked to me, he went out and searched.
Sergeant, I'm going to instruct you not to tell the court anything that someone else said.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Was calling that information out to the county in question, was that the end of your personal involvement in the follow-up on the suggestion that the boy's father might have had something to do with it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At any point, did any of your superiors show up?
Yes, sir.
And who was the first one?
Lieutenant Foster.
And where is he in relation to you in the chain of command, the rank structure?
He is my lieutenant for that watch.
Okay. About how long did he get there after you arrived?
It was pretty quick because once I got the initial information about what was going on, the standard is you contact your lieutenant and advise him what you have.
Okay. And did he come out and become the senior man on scene after a little while?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did anybody else from the Chatham County Police Department command staff show up?
Yes, sir. There was the detectives showed up. There was the assistant chief showed up. There was the detective, lieutenant, captains. They all showed up.
Okay. Do you remember who was first on scene for the detectives?
I think it was Detective Lemons. I think that was the first person I made contact with and talked to.
Okay.
There was other detectives there.
Did Detective Wilkins come out?
Yes.
And what about Detective Noble?
Yes, he was there.
Okay. At any point, was there a response by a canine tracking team?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us about that? Where were they from?
They was requested. There was a county to the south of Chatham County, and that they came in. They called them in. I think it was around Reedsville.
And when they arrived, what did they do?
They came in. They was in the front yard, and they was talking to the lieutenant. And I guess after that, they went and did a search.
Now, you mentioned that detectives showed up after some time, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, once the detectives show up, who's in control of the scene?
The detectives.
Okay, so at that point, they took control and sort of relieved the patrol officers of command?
Yes, sir.
Okay. About how long were you at the scene total?
It was quite a while. Probably, I would say probably about 2 hours.
Now, you mentioned that the defendant, her boyfriend, and her brother were present at the scene when you arrived, right?
That's correct, sir.
Now, at some point, were they transported to headquarters for questioning?
They were.
And were you involved in that in any way?
No, sir. A couple of my units were. They assisted the detectives.
Do you remember who that was?
No, I don't.
Okay. Now, after your involvement at the scene concluded, were you involved in any other organized searches for the missing child?
I did.
Can you tell us about that, please?
Once I left Buckholder Road, I was advised to go to the church. There's a church that's located on the corner of Garrard Avenue and Lewis Mills Boulevard.
And what was happening at the church?
At the church, they was having other resources come in to do the search. Other officers were coming in, and I think they had a civilian search team that came in.
Okay, what do you mean by other resources coming in to do the search?
When they have something, and when they have events where they have missing children, they are calling in other agencies and ask for assistance. Sheriff Department, and then you just have a lot of other people come in and help us aid with the search.
And when did that search take place, and how long did it last?
It took place right after I left. Buckler came down. All the units started coming in. I think we had a representative from SEMA that was there too.
SEMA being Chatham Emergency Management
Yes, sir.
Agency or Authority or something like that?
That's correct.
Okay. Roughly how many people were involved in this search that you're talking about that originated at the church?
I would say it was probably about 50 people there.
And what were y'all doing?
Well, once they got into the church, they briefed them on what was going on, and they briefed them on the areas that they wanted to search.
Okay. And what happened after that?
And once that was over, they broke up in groups and they searched the area.
Everybody had a particular area that they were responsible
Yes,
for?
sir.
And how long were you doing that for?
I would say probably another hour and a half.
Okay. What time of day are we at this point, roughly?
It's getting dark. It's late afternoon.
Okay. And when had you initially arrived?
To the church, where?
To the residence in response to the initial call?
It was, just a minute.
Sure.
9:42.
Now, were you wearing a body-worn camera that day?
Yes, sir.
Where was it located on your body?
Right in my chest area.
And is that thing always running, or do you have to turn it on?
Yes, sir, it's on.
Okay.
We require, once we get on a call, it has to be on before we get out of the vehicle.
Okay. So how do you turn it on before you get out of the vehicle?
There's a round button in the center. You tap it twice, and it activates it.
And did you do that upon arrival in this case?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And were your interactions with the defendant that you've described captured on body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
And were the arrivals of some of these other officers captured on your body-worn camera as well?
Yes, sir.
Do you see in front of you an envelope marked as State's Exhibit 2?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
How do you recognize it?
I signed. I wrote my name and everything on the front of it.
Okay, and that's an envelope, a sealed envelope.
Yes, sir. It's sealed.
What's inside of there?
It feels like it's a memory stick.
Okay. Is it a flash drive containing your body-worn camera footage from that day?
That's what it feels like.
Okay, and you've reviewed that, right?
Yes, sir. I did.
Okay. And does it fairly and accurately depict your response to 535 Buckhalter in response to this missing child call?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd offer this into evidence as State's Exhibit 2.
No objection. Admitted.
And I would like to just publish a little bit from the beginning of the file. So I've stopped the playback at 9:54:45 on the timestamp in the top right corner. Now, Sergeant Stewart, that timestamp in the top right corner of the frame, does that reflect the time of day it is?
Yes, sir.
And I asked you earlier about what time you responded, what time you got there, and I think you were testifying from memory at that point. But what does this video file reflect here in the top right corner is when you arrived and made contact with the defendant?
9:54 a.m.
Okay. 9:54. Now, do you see in front of you a document marked as State's Exhibit 3?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
It's a photograph of what you see when you first walk past the gate.
Just one or a whole stack of them?
There's a stack.
Okay. Now, are those still frames drawn from your body-worn camera footage from that day?
Yes, sir.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the events that they're concerned with?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'd offer this in as State's Exhibit 3.
Yes.
Numbers 1 through 27. I've seen these guys. I don't know the objections.
Okay. And I understand that Exhibit 3 is a composite exhibit.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
And may I be seated to scroll through these and question the witness? Thank you. Now, Sergeant Stewart, mainly these images depict different people and when they arrived, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's just go through these in order. This first slide has 9:54 and 28 seconds in the top right corner, and we can see the defendant walking down the driveway towards you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this is your initial arrival.
Yes, sir.
This next slide is shortly thereafter when she begins talking to you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, in this next slide, slide 3, who is the gentleman on the far left? And you can look up on the screen, I think. Might be easier for you.
You said it far left?
Far left of this image.
That's Corporal Jefferson,
Okay.
the officer.
Moving on to the next slide, who is that immediately to the right of Jepson that we see there with his hands on his body armor?
That looks like Officer Gormley.
Okay, so that would be Gormley.
Yes, sir.
And then to the right of Gormley, who is that with the notepad in his hand talking to the defendant?
Officer Voss.
Officer Voss. Okay. So these pictures that we've looked at, these all depict the people who were there initially, correct?
Yes, sir.
Moving on to slide 5. This is what time?
9:58:33.
So this is within just a few minutes of your arrival.
Yes, sir.
And who is the gentleman with no shirt there in the middle?
I think that's our brother.
Okay. And then the woman to the right in the image standing alongside the white vehicle, would that be the babysitter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's difficult to make out in this picture, but is her daughter standing right on the other side of her?
Yes, sir.
Now, what time is this next slide?
10:08:58.
All right, so how long after your initial response would this be?
14 minutes.
Okay. And who's that in the middle? Is that Officer Voss still?
Facing away from me is Officer Voss.
Okay. And who is that looking towards you?
That is Officer Carson.
Carlson?
Yes, sir.
Now, had she arrived since the initial response?
Yes.
And what was her role there?
She was tasked to do a search.
Okay, so is she one of the officers that you tasked out to look elsewhere?
That's correct, sir.
Now, who is this gentleman?
Lieutenant Foster.
And does this slide depict the approximate time of his arrival on scene?
Yes, sir.
And that is 11 minutes after 10?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that'd be about 15 minutes or so into your response.
Yes, sir.
In this next slide, is that Corporal Jepson on the left there?
Yes, sir.
Not the far left, but the person that we see right there.
Corporal Jepson.
And who's that in the middle?
Officer Zerke.
Zerke?
Yes, sir.
And where did she come from?
From B8,
And what
Georgetown
was-
area.
Say again?
B8, Georgetown area.
And what was her role once she arrived at the scene?
She was tasked to search the area.
The next slide, we're at 16 minutes after 10. Who is this here?
It looks like Officer Naranjo.
Naranjo?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where did he come from?
He came from, I think, Beat 9
Okay. And what was his role?
to search the area.
Now, in this next slide on the far left, is that Lieutenant Foster?
Yes, sir.
And who are those other two police officers?
That is Corporal Eam, the one facing me. And I think that is his trainee.
Okay. And what was his name?
I think it's Laurel Stewart, I think.
Okay. And did they show up to search as well?
Yes, sir.
Moving on to the next slide, this is at 10:22, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this be just under half an hour into your response?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who is this that we're looking at here?
It is Latoya Brown. Miss
Say
Brown.
again?
Miss Brown.
Okay. Latoya Brown, did
Yes,
you
sir.
say? Okay. And what is her role with the Chatham County Police Department?
She's a CRO.
What is a CRO?
She goes around and takes non-emergency calls.
She goes around
makes reports when people want to report this, whereas it doesn't require a police officer to go out and take like a theft or something like that.
Okay.
She goes out and take the.
Community Resource Officer, CRO.
Okay.
Okay.
And what was her role at the scene?
She was requested there to come in to keep up with the notes, be a scribe.
Okay. A scribe?
Yes, sir.
What is
That's
this?
what was told to me, scribe.
Okay.
But to me, she was just there to take notes.
Okay. Notes on what?
What was going on? Who came in? What was said?
Okay. Now the next slide, we're at 10:44, right?
Yes, sir.
So that would be about 50 minutes after you've gotten there yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
And is that Lieutenant Foster in the middle?
It is.
Who is that in the dark colored jacket there standing next to him?
I think that's one of the detectives.
Do you know which one that is?
No, sir.
You don't know off the top of your head?
Not on my head. No.
What is happening between the two of them?
I think the lieutenant's explaining to him about the incident that's going on out there.
Okay. Explaining what about it? Just
Telling
what
them what-
information y'all have to this
what-
point?
Yeah, so what information he has.
Okay.
I briefed him when he got there, what I had found out,
You briefed who?
the lieutenant.
Okay.
And then that's probably what the lieutenant's briefing him about what we found out.
Okay. So you would brief Lieutenant Foster when he shows up, and then Lieutenant Foster briefs the detectives?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the next slide, who is that in the tan pants and blue shirt
think
arriving
that's-
at the scene?
A detective. And I think that's detective. I think it's Noble. I think that's his name, Noble.
Okay, so that's Noble. In the next slide, who is this?
Lieutenant Thompson.
In the next slide, whose face are we looking at there?
Assistant Chief Shoop.
And who is this in the next slide?
That is she's the lady that does the news releases and media releases.
Like a public information officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what was she there for?
To cover the event. It was a missing child.
Were there news media present at this time?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I hadn't seen any.
Did they ever show up to this scene that day?
They did.
Okay. That's why she was there to deal with them?
She would be the one dealing with the media, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, in this next slide, the time is 11:51, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this would be almost 2 hours into the police response to this scene?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, who is that gentleman that we see there?
It's a Marine Patrol officer.
Say Marine Patrol Officer?
Yes, sir.
What do they do?
They route the waterways around Chatham County.
Okay. Is he with the Chatham County Police Department or some other agency?
Yes, sir. He's with the police department.
Okay. Chatham County PD?
Yes, sir.
Specifically the Marine Patrol.
Yes, sir.
And why was he there?
He came out, like I said earlier, when we have a missing child, all resources in the department, if they can spare them, they send them.
In the next slide, who are we seeing here with the sport coat and striped shirt on?
Lieutenant Cheney, I'm sorry.
Okay. And what unit was he with at the time?
The detectives.
Okay. So he was a lieutenant with the detectives?
Yes, sir.
In this next slide, it's noon now, right? 12 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're a little more than 2 hours in.
Yes, sir.
And who is that walking across the yard there?
That looks like Sergeant Coleman.
And what unit is Sergeant Coleman with?
Forensics.
Okay. So by this time, forensics is on the scene?
Yes, sir.
In the next slide, 12:05, who is this that you're interacting with?
Assistant Chief Talbert.
And in the next slide, do you see a number of police officers in the blue shirt of the Chatham County Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Who are these other people in the olive drab and tan uniforms?
I think those are the people dealing with the K9, the search dogs.
Okay. And does this depict their arrival at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Now I'll move past this slide and move to the next one. What are we seeing in this slide here?
You see detectives and forensics officers talking to each other.
Okay. And they're in the driveway of the house next door, correct?
Yes, sir.
Talking over the investigation.
That's correct.
Now, the gentleman in the foreground of this photo closest to us, is that Lieutenant Cheney of the Criminal Investigations Division who you talked about earlier? I'm talking about closest to us.
He in the gray suit.
No, closest to us.
You got a face in it?
With his back to us.
Oh, that's not. Yes, sir. That's Lieutenant Cheney.
So that's Lieutenant Cheney. And who is that in the gray suit in the middle?
That is Chief Hadley.
The Chief of Police for the Chatham County Police
Yes, sir.
Department. Who is that in the green shirt?
That is Captain Wright with the detectives unit.
Now, is it normal for multiple lieutenants, captain, in two assistant chiefs and the chief of police himself to show up to a call?
They show up on calls, how would you say, high-profile calls like murders, stuff like that, missing children and stuff like that. When we did a lot of searching and calling in a lot of resources, they come out to.
Okay. So they come when it's important.
Yes, sir.
Now, this next slide, what time are we at now here?
12:31.
And who is that we see in this slide?
I think it's Detective Lemons.
All right. And what is happening at this time?
This is the front door of the house. The door that they said that was open.
And what's going on?
I'm explaining to her from where I am what they told me and that showing her the area, the room.
She's taking a look in the room.
Yes, sir.
And then finally, in the last slide here, what time are we at here?
12:43.
All right, so this would be almost 3 hours after your original arrival.
Yes, sir.
You got there at 9:54, 12:43, almost 3 hours.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what are we seeing here? What is happening here?
That is Lieutenant Foster, Detective Lemon,
Captain Wright, and that is Captain Vandrich. Let me see the other person.
And that's Detective Lemons on the far right.
Yes, sir.
And what is she doing?
I guess they all briefing about the case. They're talking to each other about the case.
Okay, talking about the plan to take
Yes, sir.
everybody to headquarters and conduct formal interviews.
I think that's what they was doing.
Okay. Let me ask you a little bit about the defendant's demeanor. Okay, I want to go back to when you first got there.
Yes, sir.
All right. Have you responded to missing children calls before?
Yes, sir.
About how many do you think you've responded to, if you had to estimate?
You want a number?
Rough-
I can't tell you the
rough
number.
estimate.
It's been quite a few, sir. Quite a few.
More than 10, less than 10?
Or more than 10.
Okay. And have you had the opportunity to observe the demeanor of parents calling in that their child is missing and reaching out to the police for help?
Yes, sir.
What is it normally like?
Most of the time when we get to a residence where a child's missing, mother's upset. She's hysterical. She's crying. She's telling us, "What are you standing here for? Talking to me? You should be out looking for my child. You're wasting time." And they're so hysterical. A lot of times you can't talk to them.
Was the defendant like that in this case?
No, sir.
Did you view her demeanor as consistent with that of other parents that you've spoken to in missing children cases?
No, sir, I didn't.
Let me go back to the first slide. I guess it's actually the second slide. See this here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, does it look to you like the defendant is crying?
Looked like she's trying to cry.
Is that what it looked like to you that day at the time that she was trying to cry?
Yes, sir.
Did it appear to you that she was actually crying or no?
I mean, there was some. You could see there was some water on her face, but it wasn't like I told you. It wasn't. She wasn't hysterical. She wasn't crying, just crying out. When you saw big tears coming out of her.
Okay. One moment, please. No further questions, Ron.
All right, in just a moment, Sergeant. Mr. Hilliard may have some questions for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sergeant Stewart, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, Sergeant Stewart, you were one of the first ones to respond on the scene that day, correct?
Yes, sir. One of them.
All right. And I'm curious, you said you have 35 years worth of experience in law enforcement, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, in your 35 years of experience in law enforcement and you arrive on a scene of a crime, what's one of the first things you've been trained to do?
Go up and make contact with the complainant.
Okay. And then what next?
Talk to him, find out what's going on.
Okay. And then what next?
If I need to call in other resources, I do.
Okay. Now, in a case like this where there may have been an abduction that took place or transpired, especially from inside the home, would you secure the scene?
Yes, sir. That's what we had other officers to do that.
Well, we'll get back to that in a minute. So you had officers do that. Which officers were doing that exactly?
Let me see who I got there. I had quite a few officers out there that day, sir. I know I had Jepson was there after they had searched the house. He came down, and Gormley came down.
Okay.
And for you talking about securing the scene, the house.
Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
isn't it normal routine that you secure the scene where there may be some forensic evidence for you to seize or look at?
That's correct.
Okay. And wouldn't securing that scene mean you prevent people from going in or out?
That's correct.
Okay. Wouldn't it also mean that when you send techs in to go ahead and secure or look or search or do something like that, they would actually be wearing gloves or have some sort of bodysuit on so they would not contaminate the scene?
Yes, sir. You talking about the officers that went in and searched
Talking
the house?
about all of the officers that were out there. It seemed like you had an ungodly amount of people out there that day.
That's correct.
Okay. You still have State's Exhibit in front of you?
Which one?
State's Exhibit 3? approach with the...
Oh, this one. Okay, I get it.
It's the big exhibit with 27 pictures. Okay, you got 27 pictures here in front of you that Mr. Dean just meticulously went over with, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's start with number one. Number one was the first one, 954, right? This was literally as you drove up on the scene, wasn't
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay. Was your body camera operating at that point in time?
It was.
Okay, and this is a still of that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, wouldn't the best evidence of that interaction, rather than your conclusion, be the actual video of that?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, so you arrive on the scene at 9:54 that morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you have an interaction. This is what we're looking at in this particular photograph, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, rather than your conclusion being what they put in front of this jury, wouldn't the actual video from that body-worn camera be a better indicator of what actually transpired?
Of what I saw?
Right. But that's not what Mr. Dean offered, was it? He offered your conclusion, correct?
He asked me what I thought.
Right. So let's go to the next one. Picture number two. Same thing. Rather than the actual evidence, he offered your conclusion, correct?
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Let's talk about number two. That's actually part of the video as well, is it not, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Mr. Dean offer your actual video of that interaction? No, he didn't, did he?
Objection, I would ask that the witness be allowed to testify.
Well, he has to actually testify, Judge. I asked a question and it hung out there. He looked confused, so I'll withdraw it and rephrase it.
Okay, thank you.
Sergeant Stewart, these are stills lifted from your body-worn camera from that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've reviewed the body-worn camera, right?
Yes, sir.
It's good video footage, right?
That's correct.
That's the best evidence of what actually transpired that day, was it not?
Yes, sir.
Objection, argument.
I don't think it's argumentative.
And you do have him on cross-examination. However, I think the point is you are asking the sergeant questions about technically best evidence.
I'll rephrase it, Judge. What actually transpired was recorded on your video, correct, Sergeant?
That's correct.
Okay. Mr. Dean asked you to state your conclusion about that, correct?
He asked me did I think about this and think I think.
Right. So, didn't play the video, did he?
No.
Okay. Now, let's move on. Look at picture 4. These three particular officers, were these officers there to search?
Yes, sir, they were.
Did they search?
They searched the house.
They went in the house, and I'm just curious, was that before or after this picture?
After.
Okay. Did they don any particular gloves or clothing or anything to protect the scene, or did they just go in and search?
I couldn't tell you, sir, because I was standing here. I was not around the back door. They went in the house.
Well, but you know what you saw. Did you see them do that?
Here, no.
Okay.
When they went out of my sight, I don't know what they did.
Well, okay, well, let's parse this out a little bit then. Did you see them go to, say, I don't know, the back of their car and pull out some gloves?
Most officers carry gloves on their uniform, sir.
Did you see them carrying gloves?
I can't tell you what was in their pocket.
Okay. Well, all right. Did you see them put on any gloves?
I did not.
Did you see them come out and pull any gloves off?
I did not.
Okay. So you didn't see them grab any, didn't see them put any on, didn't see them pulling off, but you can't state conclusively that they didn't put any on.
I cannot tell you that.
Okay. Let's look at number 5. These particular two officers here, did you see them do that?
Mr. Hilliard, you're going through each exhibit from State's Exhibit 3. Do you mean for the photo to correspond on the screen?
Judge, I assume because they've already been tendered, the jury's going to have these.
They're going to have them.
So I really don't care whether they see it right now or not. But so, Sergeant Stewart,
Yes, sir.
these particular two officers, which two officers are these again?
Officer Voss and Corporal Jepson.
Same question to them. Did you watch them search?
Officer Voss, no. He stood there and talked to the complainant.
How about the other officer?
Corporal Jepson? No, sir. I did not see him search inside the house.
So neither one of them went inside the house.
Corporal Jepson did.
Okay. Did he put on gloves when he went in?
I can't tell you that, sir.
And let's go to picture 7. This is, I think it's one of the lieutenants, if I'm not mistaken. Lieutenant Foster.
Yes, sir.
Did he help in the search?
No, sir.
Okay. He stayed outside the whole time.
Yes, sir, as far as I know.
Okay. How about picture 8? These two officers. I think one of them Jepson. I don't know who the other one is.
Corporal Jefferson and Officer Zerke
Zerke. Did Zerke help on the search?
outside of the house.
She searched outside.
Yes, sir.
All right. And let's go look at picture number 9. That officer, which officer was that?
Officer Norano.
Okay. And same question for him. Did he help in the search?
He was outside.
Outside?
Yes, sir.
And when you say outside, we're talking about out in the pool area, the RV, all of that area, correct?
Outside of the house.
Okay. Not inside the house.
No, sir. I never saw him inside the house. Never told him to go in there.
Now, and I'm curious, you said it's Miss Brown. She's a CRO, correct?
Yes, sir.
She arrived at 10:22, which is about 30 minutes after you arrived, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
A little bit more than 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
40
right about 30 minutes. Yes, sir.
35, 40 minutes. Doesn't really matter. Does she normally come out and start taking notes for people?
No, she was requested to come out.
Who requested her? Just out of curiosity.
My lieutenant.
The lieutenant requested the note taker to come. Okay. Now, so then the next picture is picture 12. It has a detective in it. Did the detective help search?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And picture 13. It looks like it's another detective, Noble, if I'm not mistaken. But is that Detective Noble?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did he help search?
Don't know, sir.
Okay. What did he do then?
As far as I know, when he walked up, they was all talking, doing their detective stuff.
Now, and picture 14. I know I should know this officer. Which officer is that?
Thompson.
Thompson. And what was his duty?
He just came out to assist the lieutenant.
If you had to guess that day, how many people were out there from the time you got there at 9:45 or so till 12:45?
Quite a few people, sir.
A large number of people.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, did you say it's an unusually large number of people?
No.
Okay. You said you've been doing this for 35 years. Look at picture 16.
Yes, sir.
Who made the determination to call out the public information officer?
I can't tell you that, sir. I don't know. I didn't request her.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
Okay. Is that something you would normally do?
No, sir.
Okay. And with regards to the rest of these pictures, over the course of the 3 hours you were there, is it safe to say that more and more and more and more people showed up?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And where did they focus their search at when they got there?
I don't know where they focused their search. I can tell you where I focused.
So where did you focus your search?
My search was the wooded area behind the house, the roadway south of the residence, and the roadway north of the residence. All the houses around that area.
Okay. Now, at what time did the media show up?
Don't know, sir. I didn't see the media.
How long were you there that day?
I was there for quite a while.
It's safe to say 6, 8, 9 hours easily?
At that house, I know it was more than 3 hours.
So you were at the house more than 3 hours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You didn't call the media, did you?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay. And that would not be something you would normally do either, would it?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, who was it that called the canine search dogs?
That was something that Lieutenant did.
All right.
Lieutenant Foster.
How many, and I'm just curious, Mr. Dean, how many missing child calls have you ever responded to?
Quite a few, sir, over the time I've been.
10, 20,
I know it's been more than 10.
more than 10?
Yes, sir, it's been more than 10.
Less than 20?
I would think it's been more than 20. 'Cause
Been
I've
more than
here.
20?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you had any specialized training in that area or no?
Search and patrol? What area are you talking about?
I would say missing children's investigations.
We've had classes on it.
A class on
Some
it?
classes, yes, sir.
Some classes on it? Okay. And how long ago was that?
We haven't had anything recent. It's been a while.
10 years?
I think it's less than that.
5 years?
I've
7
said
years?
I've said 5.
All right, now let's talk about when you originally got there. The people that were on scene when you got there was Daniel Youngkin, Paul Simon, Miss McCarta, and her daughter, correct? 4 adults.
Babysitter.
Excuse me?
The names you called last. Is that the babysitter?
The babysitter and her daughter.
Yes, sir.
So it's 4 adults that you saw when you got there.
Yes, I think it was 4.
Okay. And I have a question for you. What was the first question you asked when you got there?
I asked her what was going on. What was happening? What's going on?
Right. And what were you told?
She told me her child was missing.
Okay. And now you made a distinction here, so I'm going to ask a very specific question. Did you ask if she had an idea of who may have taken the child, or if she had an idea of any suspects?
Well, she kept saying someone took my child. So do you have an idea who?
Right. So you asked that question, which is a normal question, right?
Yes, yes.
That's a normal question, right? And she responded to that question, correct? So nothing unusual about that. That's a normal question you'd ask.
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Youngkin say anything to you?
He was saying something.
Objection.
I'm not asking what he said. I'm just asking if you said something to him. That's all.
You may proceed.
Right.
He was saying something.
Right. So Mr. Youngkin, you talked to him as well.
He was standing there when I was talking to the lady.
Right. So you were interacting with Mr. Youngkin, Miss McCarta, her daughter, and Miss Simon all at the same time, and they were all standing right there in front of each other. Correct?
The babysitter was. I don't think she was there when I was talking to the lady.
So you
I don't
pulled them
think.
to the side.
No, it's just when I first walked in, I saw her boyfriend, and their little child.
Okay. So that picture, I guess, this right here is what you're describing, with the exception of you can't see the child, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So, and was it a few minutes later when it was the babysitter and the daughter and them as well? Correct.
That's correct. And Officer Voss was talking to him. I wasn't talking to him again. I was standing back.
Okay. Did you write a report in this case, Sergeant Stewart?
Yes, sir.
And if I were to go back and review that report, would that report pretty much contain everything that you have listed right here and everything you testified to here today?
Pretty much.
That's all the questions I have with this witness, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dean. Any follow-up?
There you go.
All right, thank you. Sergeant,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
is there any reason the sergeant should not be excused?
There you go.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.